Everything starts with a grand vision. And I think any good coach in health, fitness, business, personal lifestyle, whatever it is, if the coach isn't able to create a vision that the client loves, that the client is inspired by, that the client thinks about daily, all of our clients at M and W Perform, if you ask them what they're working on, they know what they're working on.
Hello, and welcome to Chasing Energy, where we provide insights for you to fuel a life worth living. This is episode number 12 with Marcus Mackay. I'm Daniel Lucas by day and trade. I'm a VP of Innovation. I was an endurance athlete and an ultra runner for over a decade. Now I focus on sharing practical and sustainable insights on mindset, nutrition, and training. Today's guest is Marcus Mackay. Now, Marcus has a 10-year track record as an award-winning coach, master trainer, and fitness leader in the field of health and wellness. Marcus won Personal Training Club of the Year awards in 2017 and 2018, where he managed 40 trainers and 500 plus clients. He now has an app called the Perform app, where you get individualized personal training. Now, there are no shortage of gold nuggets of information in this interview. We go right into it. We talk about things like limbic friction, where you learn how to identify and overcome procrastination. We talk about the rules to thrive. We talk about tips for a better recovery, including one recovery tip that we'll go into, which is the 10-3-2-1 rule. Structuring your training, overcoming the desire for short-term results, and planting the bigger picture. And we break all this down to the steps. I documented very detailed notes in the show notes, and you can also look up Marcus's app and his Instagram channel just by pulling up the show notes. I have links in there, and I hope you'll look him up and look at some of the information that he shares on a regular basis. The guy knows a lot about creating the big picture of health and fitness. I hope you'll enjoy this interview as much as I did creating it. I am truly grateful to Marcus and his team for helping me arrange this and put it together. Good morning, Marcus Mackay. Thanks for being on Chasing Energy today.
Hey man, thanks so much for having me. I'm glad we were able to connect.
Yeah, and I'm so glad I get to say good morning. This is the first and earliest interview I've ever done, so I'm excited about having a little more excitement. Usually I'm in more of an evening wind down mode, but this one we're both excited. We're ready to take this on. You and I were just talking about Tony Robbins and the energy that he expels. I hope we can get a little shadow of that today.
Well, of course, there's going to be times in your day which are genius times, and you have to figure when those times are. For most humans, it seems to be that it's about, anywhere from about 7 a.m. to about 11 a.m.
Yeah, I think it's about 80%. That's their
genius time. And unfortunately, we're stuck in the 9 to 5 stuff where a lot of the mornings are full of meetings, and then we're expected to do higher level thinking in the afternoon.
Yeah,
and that's a challenge for people to do fulfilling work.
There's a book by Daniel Pink called When, and it's specific to optimizing your day around your chronotype. And when you talk about what your genius time, and by the way, I completely agree with you. I think my time to do any type of critical thinking and like super productive work is from about 6 a.m. to about 11 a.m.
Yeah.
And after that, I try to have in my day job, I try to have the sort of maintenance meetings after lunch because they're more passive thinking, and it's more, taking it in and making assignments and execution type stuff. But in the morning, I tend to be more, keep the main thing, right?
Yeah.
And this is the main thing for me
today.
Yeah. What are the big rocks for today, man?
What's gonna move my life forward?
The one other thing I want to add to that is to say, Daniel Pink alludes that in the evening you have a little bit more creative. Your creative side can come out. And what I have found is if I play like an instrument after dinner, I can tend to be a little bit more relaxed and present. If I try to do that in the morning, I think of all the other stuff I'm supposed to be doing. So
That's
it's a good
interesting.
wind down routine. I've actually I've played guitar since I was young, but off and on. But what I will say is it has forced me to be present and becoming into I'm entering middle age, and so being forced to be present is something that I put a lot more value on than I historically have. So it's a good wind down
Yeah.
routine for me.
Yeah. One
So
more
you
thing about
have
creativity.
Yeah,
I like this idea of creativity doesn't like constraints. So there's parts of my
absolutely.
business where, or you try and schedule picking up an instrument, you try and schedule. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm
Exactly.
showing this
So,
book. It's called How Innovation Works and Why It Flourishes in Freedom that I keep right here. And it's like you said, there's certain constraints that are healthy and certain constraints that are not healthy when it comes. But I want you to say your point there, Marcus.
well, here, if I'm working on strategy in my business or I'm working on client programming, things that actually take creativity, sometimes you can't schedule it. Sometimes I'll be on a walk after dinner and great ideas will come and I have to take a note in my phone. So I know this podcast isn't about how to structure your day, but I think it is a very valuable thing to think about is, okay, when am I at my best? When do I do things best? And if you can optimize your schedule, good days turn into good weeks and good weeks turn into good months. And then all of a sudden good months turn into good years. And all of a sudden you've started making some really cool stuff in your life.
I I'm not ready to move on yet. I think this is a
Okay.
very good topic. I think when it comes to fitness, and that's something that's your specialty, it's your trade, it's your livelihood. You have a lot of experience with it. A little bit of background on you. You have 10-year track record as an award-winning coach, including 2017 and 2018 Club of the Year awards for Equinox. Uh, One of the things that I find from a health perspective is that people think that I can get to the training later in the day. I'll do it after work. And my experience has been you have got to be a very devoted person to consistently train after a full day at the office. It takes your willpower begins to drop more and more and more throughout the day. I think it's Buckminster Fuller did a book on that, and it's specifically on managing your willpower. So the thing that I want to add to what you're pointing out, Marcus, is when it comes to training, you need to be really, really candid with yourself about when is it that you're most likely to get it done. Because most people will say, I'd rather sleep the extra hour and then just do it at the end of the day. But are you being real with yourself that you're consistently going to do that?
I think that's right on the ball. So when I used to manage this big club of all these trainers and clients, the amount of no shows we'd have at the end of the day, even though they were paying for their sessions,
Yeah.
was insane compared to the morning sessions. And so any new habit, and Huberman just did a long seminar on this on his
I
podcast.
actually heard that 2 hours
Yeah,
of wonderful habit philosophy. Yep.
exactly. So and I knew this
The term
beforehand, but
the term is the term that he coined in that was limbic friction.
that's right. So anytime you're trying to do something that's hard for you,
Hmm.
there's a lot of limbic friction. And so if you want to make things easy, the earlier on in the day, there's less limbic friction. So if you want to show up for your training sessions and you want to be consistent and you want to become someone who exercises daily, moving it towards the start of the first 8 hours of waking up can be a really great strategy.
Hmm.
And one of the other things that he doesn't talk about is if then statements. So if it's between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., then I train. It doesn't have to be exactly 6 a.m. or 7
Hmm.
a.m., but as long as you get it done in that time block.
Yeah, and to elaborate on that, what he was trying to say was if if you are locked into a specific time, if you're not able to make that time work, people tend to be more, well, I'm not going to get it in today, versus having a range in there and saying at some point between here and here, I'm going to get it in, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or you have two thresholds.
Hmm.
One of the things I help my clients with, because I work with some doctors, surgeons, some people who are on, 150 flights a year, they can't stick to a schedule every single day that's the same. That's optimal for living. If you can do the same thing 7 days a week, I know it sounds mundane and boring, but it's so good for your biology, it's so good for your life.
Waking
However,
up at the same time, yeah.
one of the best things I've done for my life is 7 days a week go to bed at the same time, between 9 and 10 p.m. Remember, there's a range. It's not if I miss 10 p.m. I stay up till 1. It's within that range. But what we do for these guys or these people is we'll do an A and a B schedule. So they have an A schedule with time blocks, and then they have a B schedule with B blocks. So that way, when they have a week of, let's say, shift work, or they have a week of travel, they know exactly what to do with those two different schedules.
I like that, Marcus. And one way I have a little bit of an AB, I'm not sure if this is quite the definition, but one way I have a little bit of an AB schedule is I generally have a certain number of steps that I like to get in addition to my training. And so I'll fit in afternoon. I'll have a range of time that I go during the workday. I have to step out at least 30 minutes combined to somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour of just brisk walking to allow me to sort of get the blood circulating and flowing, especially after lunch. My lull is about 2:00, and I don't like to reach for stimulants. I like to just walk around, get some fresh air, get some sunshine, and come back to it. Because then, as you know, Marcus, because we can go ahead and do your 10-3-2-1 mention here, which is I don't like to have any caffeine after lunch or any.
Yep.
So I know that if I do that, I'm going to have to pay the price somewhere, and that somewhere it's going to tie into the amount of deep sleep I get. So why don't you talk about your 10-3-2-1 rule?
Sure. Well, any rules I think are really powerful because when people start to think in the gray area, where it's like, sometimes I drink alcohol on weeknights, or sometimes I drink coffee in the afternoon, then there's no structure and people will slip.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think is really valuable for people is just to have rules. And these rules aren't supposed to, constrain you. They're supposed to allow you to thrive so you can hit your goals.
That's right.
If that's a perspective you look at, that's how you got to look at it. So the 10-3-2-1 is you don't have any caffeine 10 hours before bed. So let's say your goal is to get to bed by 10 p.m. Mm-hmm. That means by noon, so for me, my goal is 10. So I have a second cup of coffee right before I train midday.
Yeah.
So that's around noon.
Yeah.
And then I don't eat 3 hours before bed. That's the 3. The 2 is no work 2 hours before bed. So no emails, turn that stuff off. It's not going to serve you. It's just going to create anxiety. And no screens 1 hour before bed. The bedroom is meant for romance and sleep, not for iPads, iPhones, or Netflix. Mm-hmm. Looking at screen time right before bed is like Superman bathing in kryptonite. It's not going to serve you.
No, and listen, I struggle with monkey mind at least as much as the next guy, if not more. And when you are checking your phone as you're winding down and you see that 2 new emails come through, it is very difficult to put those in the back of your head and go, oh, I'm not going to think about that now. You already start formulating a response and you go, what if this, what if that? Or you wake up like me, I tend to wake up in the middle of the night and then it starts circulating again. Oh, what am I going to do about that? So, yeah, disconnecting at different levels and to basically tell the mind, now it's time to wind down.
Yeah, and that's a skill, like being able to compartmentalize. There needs to be a break between activities. You talked about your walk. If you can, one of the things that I think has helped me become quite calm in the evening is at 4 p.m. when I'm signing off for the day, I go for a long hike with my dog, or I go for a walk. So I walk with my dog around 4 p.m. and that walk separates work from home. And then I will go and script my day the following. So that evening, I'll write down all the things that are on my mind. What are the big rocks I need to do during my genius hour? And then I can sleep soundly.
Okay, so you do the scripting at the end of your workday,
Yep.
the scripting for the next day. Okay, that's interesting to know.
Yeah.
I've actually been using different planners, and a lot of them will say, uh, it, it, it it'll ask you what are the big rocks that you would have to get to today in the morning. But I think it's wise. I always think it's wise to reflect at the end of the day. But you're saying you reflect at the end of your workday as to what you need to accomplish the next day. I think I need to borrow that because I do journal sometimes right before bed just to let it all out and go, what did I learn from today? So maybe I could compartmentalize that and say at the end of the workday, I'll do a reflection, 5 minutes of reflection, and then at the end of the actual day, I'll do 10 or 15 minutes of reflection.
Yeah, I found it really valuable, especially because my goal is to, I wear a similar thing every day, same brand, same stuff like that. I like to make sure that a lot of the things in my life are automated, especially my schedule, because every time you have a decision of what you're going to do that day, what you're going to wear, or what you're going to potentially eat, if you're underprepared, you're leaving some of your genius brain,
So yeah,
out of the picture.
I want to speak to that because I had heard some rumors, and or I heard some rumors. It was written in some books about how people like Steve Jobs and Obama, they wore the same thing every day and it was all picked out so they didn't have to make the decision in the morning. And I have to say, when I first read that, I thought, whatever. Since then, in the last few years, I have actually noticed I do not like to make decisions about in the morning. And that includes, what am I going to eat today? Did I prepare? So for the last few years, I have been preparing my breakfast, or I don't eat breakfast, but my midday meal several days ahead of time to where it's all laid out for me, or at least it's all planned. And the same goes to some extent. I've noticed I'm even more effective if I lay out what I'm going to wear the next day so I don't even have to think about it. I don't have to sit there and go, is this going to go with this, or is this? Having that in where I can go straight into my routine and not think about it. And I come out of my routine energized. My clothes are waiting on me. The food is already packed and prepped. I'm ready to go. My mental energy is focused on the big rocks and not these little tiny pebbles that are getting thrown about.
Yeah.
Plenty of stuff is going to come up that are going to challenge us anyway. Why add more to it, right?
Yeah, precisely. And hey, man, I got a lot more style than those guys, and I don't wear the exact same thing, but it's picked out. Like my gym gear is all ready to go. What I'm gonna wear, and you got to think about the average person wakes up. What do? They grab their phone, or first thing they do is they snooze their alarm.
Yeah.
First thing they do, they snooze their alarm. And so what they're doing is, back and forth, in and out of sleep. Basically giving your heart little palpitations, mini little, not heart attacks, but you're starting your day with anxiety. You're behind schedule. You don't know what you're going to wear. You don't know what you're going to eat. You scramble to get ready while you're checking social media, while you're checking emails. You're getting distracted. Then all of a sudden you show up to work and you're frazzled because your morning has just been this, I'm not speaking to everyone, but if this resonates with you, hear me out. You show up to work and the first couple hours of your day have just been anxiety and stress inducing. Then you show up to a stressful job.
Yeah.
And you wonder why you have no willpower. You're at the end of the day, you don't want to show up to the gym. You show up to your family or the people you care about. You're emotionally not there, or you're short with them. It's because of those things in the morning that didn't set you up for success. You didn't start your day with a calm sense. What we're talking about, preparation and precision, that's needed.
I want to add to what you're saying there, Marcus, because it's very relevant. You're trying to talk about how do you get excellence, right? In terms of when you're performing, whether it's at work, whether it's in the fitness realm, whatever. And the first thing I want to say is when you pull out your smartphone and start checking your messages, whether it's on Instagram or email or whatever, you have taken your consciousness and submitted it to the device to say, who do I need to think for? What do I need to think about at this point? Versus if you don't check those things, it's all about you and what your mind wants or thinks in that moment. So that's the first demarcation of you've handed over a lot of your consciousness to the business, to your friends, to social media, whatever. When you do that, you have taken it from yourself. And so that's time you can no longer have to yourself because you've already started filling your mind with these other things. The second thing you said was when you get to work, you're already a little bit run down. And what I would even add to that is when people get home from work, they still find themselves checking, and they go, I don't feel like I got anything big done today. I feel like I just sort of went around in circles. And I think it's because a big part of it is they never took the time to be 100% present before, and they never took the time to say, I'm not going to do anything other than identify the 1 or 2 big rocks I'm going to focus on today. Because they look at that and go, that's 10 minutes I could be checking email, instead of saying, it's 10 minutes that I'm going to say, this is the absolute most important thing that defines my success for today. When it comes to training, I'll cross over a little bit here and go into training. What I see in that respect is people's goals or training is variable. They just, if they don't have a plan, if they don't have a structure, I cannot stand it when people just show up to the gym and then just look at the equipment and go, well, what am I going to do today? And I'm honestly thinking you'd be better off taking a walk than just walking around to whatever equipment's available, doing 1 or 2 sets, and then going to the locker and saying you hit the gym today. So talk to me a little bit about how you keep your clients from being distracted and taking on, or they print off a plan, 30 days to 6-pack abs or whatever. And how do you keep them, like on a 100-day plan, how do you keep them focused on this is the objective? And we can delve into mobility and things like that, because that's the kind of thing where people are going to go, yeah, but I'm not burning calories necessarily with mobility. How do you sort of incorporate this as part of the bigger picture?
Everything starts with a grand vision. And I think any good coach in health, fitness, business, personal lifestyle, whatever it is, if the coach isn't able to create a vision that the client loves, that the client is inspired by, that the client thinks about daily. All of our clients at M and W Perform, if you ask them what they're working on, they know what they're working on. And so showing up for the training sessions becomes a lot easier because they know the vision of who they want to become.
Right.
Because they're trying to embody someone that's potentially, an inspiring father or an inspiring mother or a leader at work. And so they become identified with this new vision. So if you're just going to the gym to burn calories, think bigger. What do you want to do? Do you want to, we have a client who's almost 80 years old, and his vision is to be able to be mobile and strong for when his grandkids come around.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's less about what do you want to do today and why do you want it, than why do you want to do it, right?
And also, who do you want to be? Do you want to be someone who skips the training session? Do you want to be someone who doesn't show up for their family or who has no energy? So I think starting with vision and the why is always going to be super important. And what's amazing is the human brain is the only brain in the animal kingdom that can visualize a future better self.
Right.
We're the only ones who could see. I'm the only one where I can forecast what I'm going to look and feel like a year from now. And so the clearer that vision, the better the execution.
Yeah.
And people who, it's January, people who write down their goals just once a year and they think they're going to get anywhere, I'm sorry. It takes a lot more frequency. It takes a lot more repetition. There's a reason, in exercise it's called reps, because the more reps you do, the stronger, the better the muscle gets. The same with your goal setting, the same with your cognitive abilities, your learning. The more reps you put in and the more self-growth you do, the stronger your brain gets, the better you get at setting goals and achieving them.
So let's segue on that topic and say one of the things we had talked about in the past is that you're big on preaching sustainable transformations take time. And I'm a big fan of this type of mindset, by the way. Whenever I get asked about, hey, how would you train? I'm trying to lose weight, so I started running. And the first thing I always tell them is, don't run if you're overweight. Walk, because it's one of those things where you don't want to start hammering on your joints. And the second thing I tell them is, there's no need to run hard the first 30 to 60 days you're even running. It's just a matter of building up your adaptations. Boring advice that most people don't want to hear, but when it comes to sustainable transformations and you saying, I want to build a vision of what you want to be, what are some of the methodologies? Let's say you have a busy executive or doctor who hires you as a coach. What is it that you do to sort of steer them towards creating that vision?
Yeah, absolutely. So my belief is that health optimization first comes in your belief system. So mindset is the first thing we tackle. Is there a willingness to change? Because the decisions you made up to this point aren't going to get you to where you want to go. So are you willing? So let's say in the past, the decision to order Uber Eats or cook your food, the decision to wind down by watching Netflix like a horror movie or reading a fiction book. So we have to understand that for so long, you potentially have made not the wrong decision, but a different decision. It's not your fault. It's just this reality of society. Mm-hmm. So the first thing is willingness to change. Do they have a self-image, this vision of someone they want to become? The second lever we pull is sleep and recovery. Call it recovery. So sleep, stress management, breath work. Because if you come into our world and you're stressed out the yin yang and you don't have tools to overcome the challenges of life, and everything that comes your way, every email pops up and you get that little, like, it's like a saber-toothed tiger is chasing you. We got to work on that, because your body will not adapt if it's always in a sympathetic state. What sympathetic means, it's in a fight or flight state. Mm-hmm. So you have all these people, especially in my world, corporate execs, whatever, entrepreneurs that have skinny limbs, but then they have a whole bunch of, they have the spare tire, right? That's high cortisol. That's high stress. So the second thing is we need quality sleep. We need quality recovery and stress management. The third thing is nutrition. What are foods that feel great, that you can see yourself eating for a long time, that are in line with your goals? Mm-hmm. Because I'm telling you, going on the rabbit diet of just eating salads all day is not sustainable. No. Don't get me wrong. I love a good salad. But just cutting out, if you drop down to 1,200 calories when your body needs 3,000 in the beginning, you're going to crash and burn. You're going to rebound. So the third thing we need to really focus on, nutrition. I'll let you chime in here.
No, the third thing is nutrition. And you were saying you can't just drop to 1,200 calories because, as this conversation started, sustainable transformations take time. Now, my son he's 13 and he asks questions like this all the time. He's like, why don't you if you just want to lose weight, why not just drink water for 12 days only? And I go, it's not sustainable. And when people go back to it, you're just going to be worse off than you were. You get tired after 3 days, whatever. The grand vision is I love that, Marcus, because when you talk about sleep and recovery, when you talk about nutrition, and even when you, of course, talk about training, it means if they know that this is the vision of who I want to be, then these are the things that are going to feed me to get there, as opposed to just saying this is a regimen I'm on for 30 to 90 days.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So
because you gave it to me, that's what I'm going to do, versus you're going to help me become the kind of person that I've created a grand vision for.
Precisely. And when you have an identity that you've been attached to, okay, so for me, seeing life through the lens of an athlete is strong for me. So whenever I'm cooking my foods or I'm training, I try and embody this athlete. So what does an athlete do? Do they exercise every day? Yes. Are they agile? Yes. Mobile? Yes. What do they put in their body? Okay, they put in good fuel. Do they recover well? Yes. LeBron James and Roger Federer apparently sleep about 12 hours a day.
Yeah, 10 to 12 hours, yeah.
Yep. So
Brady does too. So
yeah. So you see, if you can, let's say for our audience, they want to be a hero. This is an example. So what is a hero? A hero has the strength for two. You can throw a couple people on my back. I got you. So what are the habits and behaviors of a hero? Once you get clear on that vision of the hero for you, now all the behaviors or the actions you need to take each day become a lot easier. So going back to our hierarchy, like we have it like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it's mindset, sleep, nutrition, and the fourth pillar we pull is training, is movement, and that comprises of mobility. It comprises of aerobic health, and it comprises of strength training.
let's talk about, how do you assess and progress someone's mobility?
Good question. Assess and progress. Well, a lot of people think that mobility is just, holding a stretch for a while, or that's just, oh, I'm not
Can you
mobile.
touch your toes? Yeah.
Yeah, can you touch your toes? Can you put your hands over your head? Cool. Yeah, those are some good assessments potentially. But how I progress mobility is the first thing is I got to remove the environment. So if you sit all day and your back hurts, right? You have tight hip flexors, like lower cross syndrome. For people who don't know what lower cross syndrome, it means you have tight hip flexors, you have a tight lower back, you have weak glutes, and then you have weak core.
That would be me, by the way.
Yeah, and so you're not designed to sit all day. You're designed to walk, bend over, like it's just not natural. So the first thing is, okay, how can we remove the environment that's making you immobile? So can you get a standing desk? One of my habits is I stand in the morning, and then in the afternoons I'll sit, which is fine.
Yeah.
Right? You could alternate between, if you really want to get productive at work, try the Pomodoro technique. 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes rest.
Yeah, and Pomodoro, by the way, for our audience, it's named after a tomato, and you can actually buy these timers on the internet. It's a timer that looks like a tomato, but it's that's what it was named after. But
yeah, exactly. So like we know, exercise and productivity and work should be done in intervals. You should work hard, rest. Work hard, rest. Anyways, removing the environment that's making you immobile is gonna really help. And some strategies, of course, you can get an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, an Oura Ring that's gonna remind you to move your ass without sounding too mean. But it's not about just showing up to the gym and crushing yourself for an hour and then sitting all day. That's still a sedentary lifestyle.
I'll speak quickly to that. There's a book called Your Chair is Killing You, I read several years ago, but this scientist found that it didn't even matter if people went to the gym. If you were sitting the majority of the day, your lifespan was very heavily impacted. Meaning, just to sort of give weight to what you're talking about, Marcus, if you're sitting in your car and at your office all day, and then you go hit the gym for 45 minutes and then go back to sitting and watching TV, you're not doing yourself any favors. The best thing to do would be to incorporate some type of mobility and, get up, walk around constantly throughout the day.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's super important. And it's not that you're lazy. It's just, I know in Canada and Toronto, man, we're just a driving culture. Everybody,
oh, really? I didn't know that.
There's just ownership of everybody has their own car. And when things become inaccessible by foot, you need to drive. So that's why you'll see in major cities like New York, London, people tend to be a little bit thinner, a little more athletic.
Oh, yeah. Man.
Because
yeah. I went to San Francisco, where all the hills are? Or San Francisco. Yeah, you do not see hardly anyone in that city because they walk everywhere. The parking is atrocious. And the hills are legit, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm talking very steep, very sharp. You're going up and down. So everyone would walk to the market. And that was one of my observations. I walked around the city and was like, man, even the people that are like 65 years old are walking up and down these hills. The same goes for when you talk about Italy and the blue zone, them having the blue zone for people who live the longest.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah. Believe it or not, the younger people in the generation are not aging well over there, and it's because they're driving. And whereas the older generation would walk 2 or 3 miles of hills to go to the daily market, they get their foods, and they walk back home. And that type of daily sort of semi-strenuous, not super high strenuous, it plays huge dividends. Zone 2, if you want to get from a technical perspective, it's zone 2 work, and they're going well past the 150 to 180 minutes a week that is recommended.
Yeah. Yeah. So walking and breathing are your two most functional. You talk about functional training, walking and breathing. That's it. So back to mobility is, okay, let's remove the environment. Okay, let's because it doesn't matter if you do yoga every morning, you sit all day, it's going to have some benefits, but it's not going to help long term. So what's really helpful is when people, let's say, hey, I watch a TV show at the end of the day. We're all human. It's okay. Yeah. It's not that I'm buried in a book all the time. But while I'm watching TV, I'll have my foam roller out and I'll stretch.
I think that, Marcus, listen, ever since I think COVID hit, Netflix viewing time has been through the roof. And look, I'm no exception. I have a show that I watch a couple nights a week. And like you, I make a rule, and that is if you're going to watch that show, let's say, I think it's like 45 minutes or something. You have to get up at least twice and do some type of mobility work. And so I'll do my core work on a mat in front of the TV for like 5 to 10 minutes. I'll take a break for like 10 minutes, and then I'll do it again near the end. And I find that I sleep better. It's actually very selfish. It's not about burning calories or anything like that. It's just I find that my back doesn't get as tight, my hips are better, and I'm able to unwind a little easier that evening as opposed to just sitting stagnantly on the couch.
Yeah. Well, exactly what we talked about with that sympathetic tone, the stressed life. Stretching and breathing is actually parasympathetic. So it pulls you into a more relaxed state, which prepares you for bed. Mm-hmm. So people who do, if you want to optimize your nighttime routine, plan your next day, get everything off your brain, off your subconscious as you can, stretch, and then do cold exposure, potentially have some sex, lights out.
Yeah.
You will sleep very well if you do that every night.
It sounds like a good routine to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about how you create this grand vision. How do you train your clients to keep temptation at bay? So how do you train them to say, whether it's nutrition training or whatever, what are some tips for busy people that you say, here's how you can keep yourself from being tempted so much?
Yeah. The biggest thing is the best way to change your habits is to change your habitat.
Yeah.
So,
I like that. Yeah.
If you look around your environment, whether that's the people you spend time with, whether it's in your cupboards at home, whether it's at work, and you look around and there's things that are not part of this vision, for me, like peanut butter is my downfall. I can't have peanut butter in the house because 1 tablespoon turns into 11. And
How about that? That's the first time I've heard that. You must love your peanut butter, man.
Yeah, exactly. So
What's your favorite brand?
These. We have some natural, like you guys have Whole Foods. So at Whole Foods you can grind your own. They have a good one. It's also like Terra's Natural. Anyways,
but it is super calorically dense.
Super dense. 1 tablespoon, and you're having like a full one it's like a Blizzard from Dairy Queen. That's 150 calories in 1 tablespoon. Yeah. A whole cup of blueberries is 80 calories, and you have to pick those one by one.
And it has a lot of fiber too. So yeah,
precisely. So back to so if you have temptations, your habits need to become so robust that even when those temptations are around, you can thrive, or you can make the good decision.
Yeah.
Right. So for people who want to stay, number one is, hey, I made this decision that regardless if I screw up and I slip up, because you will, that I never have more than one bad day. I get back on track, and then I create the environment for me to do well. I create the environment for me to actually hit my goals. Because if you look around and you have, this is a challenge I see with people, is they start pursuing something, whether it's a physical goal, a professional goal, you kind of have to get a little bit selfish. That you're being selfish so that you can show up better for them, for your people, for your work.
Yeah.
Right? It's not about, you might think you're being selfish, but hey, in the long run, it's going to help everyone out, because you're going to have more energy. You're going to have more self-esteem. You're going to be on top of your game.
Well, it's an extension of the conversation we had about not checking work emails early, right? You have to be a little selfish with time for yourself so you can be 100% present when you need to be, right? So with your family, for example, for me, I need to be selfish so I get up extra early before they get up. And then I have that time for myself to take care of myself, so that when they're up and ready, I can be there for them. And I have to take. I've played the martyr before, all those things, and said I'm going to be 100% available at all times. It's like you said, it's parasympathetic. It's fight or flight, constantly.
Yeah. So the biggest thing in this case, so let's get the vision, let's get the habits down, dialed, and make sure that you have an environment that you can do really well. And then let's do a program that, if I hand it to you, nutrition training, that you look at it and you're like, yeah, I can hit this 9 out of 10 times.
Let's talk a little bit about your program and the app you use. Tell me a little bit about what the experience is like for people who want to give it a roll.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we mentioned, I worked as a personal trainer, seeing clients for the first 10 years of my career. And I saw, it was challenging just to be a personal trainer, because as we've spoken about, there's so much outside of the gym session that's paramount to a client's success. What are the behaviors, whether it's nutrition, stress management, all those things. So seeing someone one-on-one in the gym wasn't getting the results anybody wanted. So that's why I started Emperform, is really to create accountability and support around all the other lifestyle factors that are going to help clients go from survival mode to thrive mode. Right?
Okay, so it's more about, like you said earlier, it's more about creating a habitat so that their not just while they're at the gym, but for the whole cycle. And I'll cite you and say, one of the things you tell your clients to wear is the Oura ring, so you can ensure that they're getting a good night's rest, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I encourage them to wear an Oura ring, but the other thing is, instead of just showing up to the gym 3 hours a week, we have accountability pretty much 7 days a week. Every time you complete a training session or you get through your habits, my coaching team knows, right? We check in with your progress every single week, where we assess shreds, which is sleep, hunger, recovery, energy, digestion, and stress. So you see, although you might have goals to get lean, healthy, to get to where you want to go, it's not just, I wish it was just cutting calories and training really freaking hard. For some people, that works magically. Like very, very few people. For a high percentage of the population, we need to start looking at behavior change and the person you want to become. Because in my experience, I've seen a lot of people be really successful. I've seen a lot of people not be really successful. And the ones that are really successful, they have the vision and they have the accountability. The vision is either sourced from, unfortunately, a trauma. So they've gone to a doctor's office and they say, hey, if you don't change things around, things are going to go really bad. Number two, a client who has recently gone through a breakup, is very inspired and has a big vision because they want to get back on the field. That's part of our DNA. And
Yeah.
number three, I think they just got so clear on their vision. They bought into who they want to become, not necessarily the program, but they just have this fire, this instinct inside them that want more.
Very nice, Marcus. Very nice. I heard Louis C.K. did a bit where he said, you know how you see those cars that are on center blocks in people's yards that have been sitting there forever? He's like, that's your body after when you're getting a divorce. You look out there and go, this is my body? Oh my gosh, what have I let happen to this thing, man? So yeah, they're very inspired in the short term. They're very inspired in the short term to turn things around.
Well, yeah. And for most of my clients, they come into us, like we call it survival mode. So we just got to get them healthy. So the first 8 to 12 weeks, we call it a primer phase. So we're working on structural balance. We're working on good sleep habits. We're working on all the fundamentals. As Kobe Bryant says, it's about doing the ordinary things extraordinarily well. The second phase of our program is we go into a progress phase. So now that the body is... Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the second phase of our program, we work on, it's called progress phase. We push them, right? Since the body's healthy, fat loss really starts to come off because the body wants it. It can. The third phase of our program, after 6 months, we want to get our clients to be athletes. We move into a performance phase. And then the last phase of our program, we move them into a peak performance phase, right? So by the end of the year of working with us, we've created this healthy, mobile, agile athlete. I think everybody has the opportunity to feel like that. Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
So, Marcus, I'll hit you with a little bit of a vague question that I ask some of my guests, and that is, you're at a coffee shop and they kind of come up to you and say, Marcus, man, my energy's just not, I find myself tired throughout the day. I know there's a lot of different avenues you could go down here, but what is generally your first bit of advice to people, your little 3-minute of wisdom insight?
Well, we get our energy from 3 different places. Maybe 4, sunlight could be argued. But sleep, nutrition, and oxygen. And so I might ask, how was your sleep today? How's your breathing? How's your cardiovascular health? And what did you eat today? And that would give me a pretty good idea, or even this past month, what's your sleep score, what's your nutrition, and what's your sleep? I think that would give me a really good idea of what their body's doing physiologically. And then I would also ask, okay, psychologically, what's draining you? What are the things that are keeping you up at night?
Very, very well-rounded approach there, Marcus. There's a lot to unpack, and that someone could definitely give you a lot of feedback on. I will add one other thing. It's very wise of you that you said, what did you eat today? Because scientists have learned when they're trying to assess people's diets, don't ask them what you eat on an average day, because they'll make up a story of what they usually eat. But if you say, what did you eat today? They'll often go, well, I had this, but that's not my normal. It kind of sidesteps the rationalization that often occurs. Marcus, where can people find out about your program and get in touch with you and learn more about you?
Absolutely. So my website is www.marcusmackay.co. Mackay is spelled Mackay. And then you can also follow me on Instagram, and it's just at Marcus Mackay.
Wonderful, man. Marcus, I am so grateful that you were able to share some of your well-founded and a lot of years of your training experience with the audience here. And I wish you all the best. Please let us know if we can ever do anything for you, man.
Man, this was awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
So there you have it. What a great interview with Marcus with so much information. I clipped several pieces to put to social media, and it was probably the most clips I've ever put together for social media. I'm actually going to have to prune it down to 1 or 2. The biggest thing that I've been using since this interview is the 10-3-2-1 rule. And I kind of knew the outlines of it, but I've actually, because it's such a catchy little number system, I've been more cognizant about saying, no, it's 3 hours till bed, no more food, no more screen time at this time. Winding down properly has been something that I'm starting to put a little more quantitative value on. And of course, recovery is more qualitative. So thank you so much, Marcus, for kind of giving me that outline of that. And I'd love to hear your feedback. Shoot me a note on social media, whatever, and say, hey, this is what I liked most about it, or this is something that's bringing value. And of course, if you can give Marcus a follow too, that'd be great. Until next time.